Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Scott, and today we're going to be painting a Relic Contemptor Dreadnought for the Space Wolves army from Warhammer 40,000. So let's go ahead and dive into how I painted this model. To get this model ready for painting, I've primed it using a Leadbelcher spray primer from Citadel. The first thing we're going to paint on this model is all the structural parts of the Dreadnought. We're going to start by shading them all with Nuln Oil, and this is going to darken down the metal color and make it look somewhat oily and dirty. Once we've allowed that shade to dry, we're going to take Necron Compound and we're going to dry brush this over all of the metallic parts of the model, and this is going to return that metal to a somewhat cleaner appearance while still leaving the recesses dark and dirty. Now that the structural parts have been painted, we're going to base coat all of the armor using Thunderhawk Blue. For our next step, we're going to take Coelia Greenshade. We're going to use this to pin shade the model. Now when you do a pin shade, you don't wash all over the model, you just go into the recesses and spots on the armor where you want it to appear darker, and you just manually do those spots rather than the whole thing. Once we've finished shading the armor, we're now going to layer over the armor using a mixture of Thunderhawk Blue, Fenrisian Grey, and Oceanic Blue in a 1:1:1 ratio. And when we do this, we're not going to paint all the way up to the edges. We want to leave the edges darker so it appears as if those edges are shaded or highlighted with a darker color. Now that the main armor color is done, we're going to take Averland Sunset, and we're going to paint this on the shoulder pads, the armor panels that go over the exhaust pipes on the back, and the knee pads. Once that base color is dried, we're going to take Casandora Yellow, and we're going to use this as a wash over all of the yellow panels that we've just painted. If you want, you can go nice and heavy on this, especially towards the base and corners of the armor panels. Once the shade is dried, we're going to layer over each of the armor panels using Yriel Yellow. Now, you're going to want to thin this paint down, because if you don't, it comes out kind of pasty, and you'll want to do this in multiple thin layers. Once that's done, we're going to take Xereus Purple, and we're going to paint this on the back half of each of the shoulder pads, as well as the casing of the weapon on the Dreadnought's right arm. Once that base color is in place, we're going to take Druchi Violet. We're going to use this again as a pin highlight in all the recesses around the armor panels where we've painted this purple. Once the shade is dried, we're going to take Genesteeler Purple. We're going to use this to highlight the edges of the shoulder pad and the casing of the weapon. Now we're going to begin working on the details and trim of the model, and we're going to use Retributor Armour as the base color for this. Now just be careful not to get this on the blue and yellow armor panels that we painted before. Now we're going to take Agrax Earthshade, and we're going to wash this over all of the trim that we just painted. Now you don't want to go too heavy with this because you want to darken down the gold, but not completely turn it into a brown. Now that that's all done, we're going to take Balthasar Gold, and we're going to use this to pick out any of the ornaments or small details that we still want to be metallic, but we don't want them to be either Leadbelcher or gold colored. This is also going to include the smokestacks on the back of the model. Now to shade all of the Balthasar Gold, we're going to use Seraphim Sepia. This is going to not darken it quite as much as the Agrax Earthshade we used in the past. It's actually going to give the copper panels a somewhat gold tint to them. Now our next step is going to be kind of a little bit weird. We're going to take Sycorax Bronze and we're going to highlight the edges of both the gold and copper panels. Now what this is going to do for us is it's going to make it so that the differences between the gold and copper are a lot more subtle, but they're still different. Now that we're done with the trim, we're going to begin working on the fur and the decals on the model. We're going to use Zandri Dust as the base color for this. While that color is still drying, we're going to take Ushabti Bone and we're going to paint this on the wolf skull that's on the front of the model, and if there are any other bones or teeth that are hanging off of chains on the model, we're going to paint those in this color as well. At this point, we're going to shade both the Ushabti Bone and the Zandri Dust areas using Contrast Skeleton Horde. Now you're going to want to go nice and thick on this when you get to the fur, so it'll give it a darker brown color. Once that contrast is dried, we're going to take Mechanicus Standard Grey and we're going to dry brush this on the fur of the wolf. Now, it's a good idea to go heavier in some patches and lighter in others. That way the fur doesn't have a 100% even and uniform color to it. Now we're going to take Screaming Skull. We're going to use this to highlight all of the most raised surfaces and the edges of the skull and any of the teeth that are on the model. With that all done, we're going to take Rakarth Flesh. We're going to highlight each of the wolf symbols that's on the model using this color. We're also going to highlight a couple of the little glyphs or runes that are hanging off of the chains on the model. Now we're going to go through with Leadbelcher, and we're going to pick out the chains that are hanging on the model. We're also going to use this opportunity to clean up any spots where we overpainted with the armor panels before. We're also going to add a couple streak lines where the paint could have chipped on the model. Now we're going to begin working on the eyes and gems on the model, and we're going to start with Mephiston Red. We're just going to put a dot in each eye, and then we're going to pick out any of the gemstones that are spread across the model. We're going to shade the gems using Carroburg Crimson. We're also going to put this in the eyes as well. Just be careful not to go too heavy with this because you don't want it to leak out onto the details around the eyes and gems. Once the shade has dried, we're going to take Evil Sun Scarlet, and we're going to use this to highlight the center of each of the eyes, and then we're going to grab the edge of the gemstones. Finally, we're going to take a bit of Celestra Grey, and we're going to use this to just put a dot in the center of each eye, or a stripe, depending on the shape of the eye. We're also going to then put a single line at the very center of each gem. And with that, we've finished this model. Thank you so much for watching today. Really hope you've enjoyed this video. Now, if you'd like to show me some of your own painting projects, go ahead and join the Facebook group that I've linked in the description of this video. As always, have a great day, and we'll catch you in the next one.